Kia ora and welcome back. We've done a change around in the seats here at AUT, and now I'm sitting here with Andrew McPherson, the Chief Technology Officer of Stuff. Now, I'm sure most of you out there do know Stuff. It's probably one of the sites you go to first thing in the morning to catch the day's news. But there's actually a lot that goes on behind any form of online media or offline. And I'm going to talk today to Andrew about some of the really exciting things that are going on in Stuff as they digitise their systems, and particularly around the launching 3 new digital news sites, which is the Post, the Press, and the Waikato Times. And so it is a pretty significant new era for media in New Zealand with having these great publications moving online. So we'll definitely ask a few questions around that one. But I just want to give a little bit of a brief intro to Andrew before we start talking. So Andrew is the Chief Technology Officer, as mentioned, which he's been in for a little while, and he's transforming the technology capability of Stuff as an organisation to enable a strong platform to provide next generation of products and services, which I guess out there Kiwis across Aotearoa are looking for at this time of great change. He's led technology organisations across many industries, including media and entertainment, telecommunications, banking and finance. So there's plenty we can talk about today. So Andrew, great to have you here. It's a little bit always on the spot sitting here on Tech Week TV. But I'm really thrilled that you're here to talk about these new platforms. So should we start there and talk about why and how and what these platforms are about?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Francis. So, yeah, really, Stuff has gone through an interesting transition in the last few years, and I just want to talk a little bit about Stuff to start with. So most people know us from our website, the stuff.co.nz website, but a lot of people don't know that we have 43 newspapers that we publish. And a lot of those are big daily newspapers around the country. We also have our community network, Neighbourly, also have magazine business and events business as well. So it's quite a diverse business. And when I started with the business, we'd gone through a management buyout. The business had come back into New Zealand ownership, and we really made that commitment to sort of building a platform that we could provide great news to all New Zealanders. But obviously, we needed to look at modernising it to support these digital experiences. So really started from a greenfields approach to really rebuild that technology stack from the bottom right the way through, and really making sure we'd have a foundation that could support innovation, and we could launch new products, and these are some of the new products we're seeing coming out now. But also what was really important was for us to have a platform that would support really efficient workflows, and that we could sort of introduce more new technology on those platforms over time to make our teams really productive in the way they produce content.
Yeah, I guess a little out of your area, but when you've got journalists writing for an online platform versus a print publication, is it the same content, or do you have to change it up?
No, that was actually one of the challenges in terms of producing a really efficient workflow. We wanted to put in place a system so that all content could be produced on the same system in the same way, and then we could decide how that content then was distributed across either print, digital, onto any of our properties really on any channel. And while that is kind of easy to say and might sound straightforward, it is actually quite difficult, and it required us to think about how we create the content and the formats, and creating structured sort of metadata around that content, so effectively it could be stored when we store it all in sort of one location, but then it can be surfaced on multiple channels. And you really, when you think forward to the sort of experiences that we want to deliver, and what people expect now too is expecting more personalised experiences, and really having that kind of additional kind of metadata or tagging on the stories is really important, because then it allows you to be able to surface the stories that are most relevant or important to whoever is reading it.
And how are you seeing in the early, it's only been a few weeks now with these new platforms.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going really well, actually. It seems our audience appreciates the opportunity to experience, to interact with, read the content in different ways. And I think what we're seeing is that printed newspapers are quite a different experience from the digital newspapers. Printed newspapers are very much that lean back.
The weekend paper, right?
Yeah, it's the unplug. And it's actually, we hear about it, people saying, take some time away from the screen, and it's kind of like, you put your phone down, get away from the computer, sit down, cup of coffee or whatever, sit and enjoy a newspaper, and that's sort of a tradition that I think a lot of our audience enjoys, where the digital experience is much more, you're on the go, you want that quick update, maybe you're traveling between meetings or something, and also the digital experience enables us to deliver video and audio as well. So there's some different things we do with content, but having these mastheads, taking them digital, this is the first time we've actually offered a digital subscription product. Up till now, the only way of really accessing that content that we provide for these local communities around the country has been through that printed product. Where now there is this option of getting that digitally. In the masthead, masthead newspapers, really does have different content than say Stuff, which is our main digital site. So the masthead sites really has a lot more local content and goes deeper. So it provides people that information about what's happening inside their community and those local perspectives. So, for people who are interested, in the Post, it was known as the Dominion Post. So the Post is a good example of that because it is our Wellington masthead newspaper. It provides really good perspective on what's happening in Wellington and the business of the capital really, and what's happening there.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't live in Wellington, it's not likely you have access to the masthead in the local shop. I mean, we're certainly not on the same day. So, yeah, right. I guess that's really important. What about globally? I mean, media is obviously changing, and it's probably one of the sectors that has to respond quickly to change. What are you seeing in the horizon that probably has your attention? Yeah,
we're seeing a lot of things happening with AI, and it's a real inflection point we're going through. It's super exciting, but it's potentially disruptive as well. And we're seeing that in a number of ways right across our business in terms of what we do and what we produce. And look, some of the exciting things for us is that some of the tools that are coming out are really great in terms of video editing, for example, and transcription, and our audio tools. And we have a podcast we release every morning now, and the transcription and editing of that. We would probably struggle to do that the traditional ways, in the time available to get that out earlier, first thing every morning, where the tools make it quite straightforward. And we're also using AI to curate some of the content and provide some personalised content on our website. Also, we're now working with technology, trialling technology that would automatically lay out the newspapers as well, and that's quite exciting newspapers. So some of those things that were very time-consuming are now being simplified for us. But we're also seeing that there's news coming from sources that are not necessarily so trusted, and it's there's this potentially difficulty for audience to know what to trust and what not to trust when they're looking out across the internet.
Yeah, I was talking last week. I did my quarterly briefing on the last 3 months of technology advances, and I used the example: you need just 3 seconds of someone's voice now to be able to create an entire monologue of someone's voice to be so believable that a mother can't tell apart that it's their child or not. Yeah. And of course, we already know deep fakes. You can create. I saw last week with a coronation. There were so many sort of alternative platforms of another type of coronation, which looked unbelievably real, voices, likeness, but actually was, of course, not the royal family. And you start to realise that content now can be created so quickly, can be completely created to the point where you cannot tell them apart. So is the future then of media going to come down to those that we can really trust? And how do we get people thinking about the trusted source of information? Because even now we have, before AI became so prevalent, social media was still a place that people took as being a credible source in many cases with no validation.
Yeah, I mean, you raised some really good points there, and I think that the issue is that with the ability to create voices, I mean, that's really quite, has some scary implications, but this sort of breakdown of trust and what can you trust. And really for us at Stuff, I mean, trust is that central tenet in terms of everything we do. We in no way want to ever erode that trust we have with our audience. So really we see Stuff, there's an opportunity for us to be a trusted source. And we have the biggest team of journalists in New Zealand, and right across the country, and even in smaller communities, and we're able to really access news at the source, and capture video and audio, and write these stories that are can be trusted. And so we really see that opportunity to position ourselves as a trusted source. And I would say if you see some news that you're not sure whether it's real or not, look, come to one of our websites, maybe stuff.co.nz or one of the masthead websites, and check it out, see if it is a real story, and because if it is, we will be covering it. But I think that's really the only way you'll be able to do it. Know what your trusted sources are, and then go to those trusted sources for genuine trusted news.
Yeah, I guess it's not just the news media that had that challenge. We have it in education as well, as people often referencing research that never took place and it wasn't peer reviewed. So we're same sort of advice. We always say go and find multiple sources to showcase that there is actually not just a single trail that's all been just sort of syndicated across many different kind of social media sites, but actually it's in legitimate sites and actually it's been validated. So I guess we're going to have to get good at that, and maybe AI tools themselves will help us be able to give a gold star of, is this real? Can it be authenticated?
Yeah, that's really interesting too. And we've been looking at technology for, say, AI technology for fact checking. And, we have articles that sometimes come on some of the international news feeds, and you want to look at either, can you fact check things, or can you parse them, or maybe summarize things? And I think this is the thing with AI, is that, you do have to be very careful. And I like some of these new AI products coming out that cite references, and you can actually see where that information came from, and you can click on the reference and check it for yourself. So I think the AI is going to improve and become more powerful, but we certainly see it as a tool inside our business for helping us maybe curate or summarise the news, but we certainly don't see it in replacing journalists. I still think you really need that strong journalism to get to the story. And that is really our strength from Stuff, having that really large team of journalists around the country.
Yeah, one of the other things I talked about in my briefing was there is actually, if you look across all the major social media channels, there's a decline of advertiser reach. So there is on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, obviously, and even some of the newer ones that have come out have sort of seen a bit of a dip, and perhaps it's a diversification as more and more social media options are out there, or perhaps people are starting to go, I'm kind of tired of just this always on, having social media sort of all in front of you. Where's the play come between sort of credible media story journalism and social media? The tension's been there for years, but do you sort of have a view on where that's going to go longer term?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, we actually see our audiences increasing, and maybe there was a time when more people were on social media, but we particularly see it on our Stuff website that we have a really strong audience every day that has actually been growing, and it's particularly when there's been really important news events, like say we saw this through COVID, but we've also seen it more recently through the floods. When there's a major event, our traffic really grows, and it continues to stay up past that. And I think that that I guess there's that tension there between social media. Having been quite an addictive sort of experience where you spend a lot of time. But I think, credible local news is an experience that people want to come to every day as well. And again, they're probably, complementary in some ways, but we certainly don't see social media, replacing news in any way. And as I said, we've been growing in recent times.
There's a trust barometer, Edelman's trust barometer, which comes out every year, which is, the largest trust barometer for, I think, 22 years now globally. Unfortunately, it doesn't have New Zealand. But what it does show is a really significant shift away from who people trust. Unfortunately, media is really declined rapidly, along with government. And what's raised in terms of the most trusted organisation now is business. The reason I raise this is people are going back into their neighbourhoods. People are starting to trust the people around them, the people who live near them, the people within their whānau. I think having regional papers must help that. The idea that people are starting to say, there's a lot going on out there. Yeah. I just feel actually better when I'm closer to the things I really love and enjoy, which is around me. And the importance of regional subscriptions or papers.
Yes.
Is that a trend globally that people are still keeping those regional papers, or are they a bit of a dying breed?
No, we are seeing a resurgence in certain markets around the world, and I think the trust lens is really important too. Trust is something we track really closely, and it's one of the central tenets in our business, really. And we look globally around trust in the media, and it's interesting when you look globally, it is quite a range, and I think the country where it's lowest is the United States. It has the lowest trust in media, and the countries where it's highest is actually Scandinavian countries. New Zealand is actually more towards the high end of the range of trust in media, so we're actually not doing too bad, and we certainly, I think you have to be careful to not think that's what's, the American US media, the view, of the media there and the trust in the US media. I think you've got to be careful not to think that applies in New Zealand because it is different. But we are seeing right around the world, and this is from the Scandinavian countries and the US, that there's been this resurgence of local media and local newspapers, and actually new local newspapers have been getting launched over even in the last couple of years. But we see that in New Zealand as well, is that having again these local newspapers, people do want to know what's happening locally, and we also see that on our community network, Neighbourly, and I think a lot of people would know what Neighbourly is. It's it's this local, hyper local social network where you can connect with events or people around your neighbourhood. I talk a lot to people who use our Neighbourly network, and I actually use it myself, and it's great for I need to find someone to do my garden, or we've found tutors for our children and all sorts of things and things like that, and what events are happening at the local school and all that, and I think people do want to connect a lot more with their local community and be part of their community. So certainly there are different sort of trends and themes and all that, but I do see that shift towards local.
Yeah, and I really think it's one of the wonderful things about Stuff is the fact you do have those connections right across deeply into communities. So I think if talking, some people need to know what's going on globally, some people don't, and actually the idea there's still channels for them to get up to date, great information at their fingertips, and I think Neighbourly is a really good example of that, and I'm thrilled that it exists there. When you talk about that responsibility, obviously trust is one of them. I know the other one you have is around sustainability. And there is a whole topic this week, well actually threaded throughout Tech Week, around sustainability in tech. And I'd love to know, you become a B-Corp.
Yes.
That's no small feat.
Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes, but I'd love you just to go, why did you become a B-Corp?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? And what's your sustainability focus within the organisation?
Yeah. So becoming a B-Corp's not easy, as you know. It took us about a year, and it's not a lot that we needed to go through. But a B-Corp is really about balancing purpose and profit. And we saw that aligned with us really well. I mean, we have our purpose is to make Aotearoa a better place, and do that through our mahi every day. So we sort of aligned well. But B Corp is all around balancing or having high performance from a social, environmental, transparency and accountability, and having those in balance. And look, there's just great alignment with what we want to achieve as an organisation, and the commitment and that to our audiences and the responsibility we take for that. It has set us on a journey of reducing our carbon footprint.
Right.
And, we've set really clear goals around our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, to reduce it by 25% by 2025. We're well on the way to achieving that.
Wow.
And also, it's given us the time to get a really good handle on our Scope 3 emissions as well, and we're putting plans in place to reduce that as well.
As a media company, what are those first things you do to reduce carbon? What are the big ones?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of the things that I guess all organisations do in terms of
travel,
travel and electric cars,
right.
and all that, and looking at our data centres. Putting all our equipment in data centres that have a goal to get to carbon neutral data centres.
Wow.
Look, there's some great options coming available in New Zealand in that area too. So, so we've made all of those things we can do quite quickly. The bigger challenges for us is obviously around our newspapers and newsprint and distribution of newspapers. There is a carbon footprint on that. But I think this is ties into launching our digital new digital sites, is that we have options there, and there's opportunity for people to access that same quality media and journalism from a digital product now that they would have otherwise had to go to the printed product. So that's certainly part of our journey.
Yeah, and obviously technology enables a lot of things that go on to become a B Corp. You couldn't do it without text, you can't measure without the technology.
Yes.
How many media companies are doing this? Is this quite unique, or is it quite common?
Well, we're the only major news media organisation in New Zealand that's B Corp certified.
Did you follow international trends? Is this something that's starting to happen?
Yeah, I don't think internationally we're seeing a lot as yet. I mean, internationally there's 5,000 organisations that are B Corp certified. In Australia and New Zealand it's 470, but typically what we see at the moment, it's quite small organisations that are becoming B Corp. They're small, forward-looking organisations. There are not many large organisations like us in New Zealand that are B Corp certified. It does take real commitment to it. But no, look, we're really proud to be B Corp certified, and look, there's a great community around that as well, which we're happy to be part of.
Well, look, I'm thrilled you've taken that stand. I think it's an exemplar for many others to follow, because if a big company can do it, then a smaller company certainly can.
Yes.
So well done on that. Also, congratulations for being a major sponsor in this process of Tech Week. With our organisation like Stuff supporting Tech Week and the tech ecosystem within Aotearoa, we wouldn't have the ability to let people know what's going on in this country. So I think that's really important to understand that one of the things we have within the tech ecosystem here is we don't know enough about each other. So media plays such a huge part in the storytelling. And I think it's really important that we keep highlighting all the great success stories here. And also just in terms of congratulations on this digitisation and transformation of media. And so I appreciate you coming in to talk about all these things which are close to a lot of the hearts of people who are watching today, thinking about tech, sustainability, thinking about impact. So you're really doing that by doing it by actually showing how to do it. So thanks, Andrew, for coming in, and I wish you well with the next endeavours with your digitisation.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me here today.
Cheers.